exhibit it in London at some crazy exhibition, and then photograph it all in the name of crazy sakeness. And then Louis and all the cool people would be like, yeah, you guys are really cool because they're all artist friends from the big Byron. But don't worry, because Sally and Holly are back to Byron, and this time they're armed with a vehicle. A quick stop at Andreas and Yoka's at the honey place, and then with Masty, and then we're back at so-and-so's all of a sudden begun. And we've made signs, we've made more signs we've never made in the whole life, and me and Thingy Bob didn't get on very well about it, but Sally got me through it. It was okay, but then eventually she had to leave because Hodgie was just too much of a stinky boo face. The time went on, we had a really cool wicked party with loads of people who thought they were super cool, but don't worry, Sally was the coolest there. And then I had a raffle, and the yoga studio had to go. We just had to say goodbye. So I made some light boxes, Sally made some clogs. I painted a picture of me being really sunburnt. I didn't win, but I tried. And everyone ate ice cream, and loads of beaten stencils and wood, and everything was cut up. And then time just kept on rolling. And I said, pick up the phone. But they didn't pick up the phone, so we skateboarded for a bit, and some really cool, extra cool people came with their flippy skatey boards and made weird noises all day long. But it didn't take all day for this flower to close. It only took a few seconds, and then what happened? We went off to this little gig in the middle of a place where there was lots of rusty bolts attached to bridges. And guess what? Me and Dash built a balcony, and then Sally and Ollie were up on the top of the quarry making naughty love times, and we did all sorts of things, including jellyfishes, but not. What about Buster? What about Buster and his crazy frolicking around the quarry, and then Ollie's painting birds all day? What about that? And then he had to build his house, and then the lines are travelling up the wall, and he's painting his more of these drifty labs in the weird little room where Brody had writing all over the wall. And we added to it, and Joel skated like a maniac. Sean almost hit him with a pole in the face, but he enjoyed it anyway. And then I painted a bike completely white. It was amazing. And then we frolicked around, and we had more fun with some fish tanks I started to create with fish living inside the tank. And then it was the first film ever, Ollie's debut acting career, directed by Sam Uther, the smelly Sam Uther. And the orange, the whole thing about orange was still happening. I'm afraid it's very sad, but I'm still doing a whole lot of orange stuff. And this is a nice little visit to Sydney, although I was on my own, and it's not really. It was very sad because Sally wasn't there. And then we're driving around, and I'm collecting items and photographing weird sculptures, and Emmy and I commented hugely on the different shapes and colours and objects that can be seen in the park and around the Byronshire town. But then there was this enormous rusty trolley, and I thought that maybe if I made a happy birthday video for Brittany and Piers, then the rusty trolley would begin to become famous, and more people would enjoy the rusty trolley antics. And then there was spinning barrels that I painted for the treehouse, and more hard rubbish and all sorts of rusty and broken items that I love to collect. And the more I collected, the more I got stuck in the collection, and the more I kept on cleaning up the house, the more Coco wanted to move in. And the more I kept filming Rohan, the more he kept masturbating. And the more I kept playing Scrabble, the better my words would get, but the more competitive I got. But that's okay, because Sally was stuck in the back of the van in there. And then all these different little objects in my room, all the stuff I collected, just started disappearing. Everywhere I looked, it was disappearing. So then I had a pause, and Joel gave a very curious, strange look, like a cat or a fox or something. And then we filmed Sean's film, where I had to pretend to be a Cockney face, and then Sally got on a bicycle with a helmet that was way too big for her, and Dash made lots of wooden objects that were too shiny and I didn't like them. And then Sam started to make a graveyard, which was the most important part of our object photography. What are all these things? Ollie made some wooden teeth that he cut out of things, and then he tortured Emmy in a scene where he had furry fox fur around his neck and a funny face mask. It was a really windy day, and I decided to film through the trees, and then Dash's mum came over and posed in front of a Porsche because she thought she was a sexy model from the 70s, but she wasn't really. And then Sally's mum came over, and we frolicked around Rachel's house all day, and we saw a big black cock, and then there was lots of boobs all over the place as well, and it was quite a phallic-y booby day in general, but luckily we chased around a butterfly all day and had snacks, which we couldn't really afford. But then, up at the lighthouse that night, we were with all our friends and we watched down at the sunset. And then Sally posed to me and all these strange things, and I took a cheeky shot of her boobs, but she didn't know that until now. And then there was lots of really fast things that happened with crazy parts of my life that I decided to speed up, because then we get to this, and this is really cool, because this bit is where I create water with a tarpaulin. And those are Emmy's photos from Austria. Why not? And this is the graveyard where we decided that we'd pose as a woman and a man, and me and Sam worked man and wife, and I killed him. He killed me on a graveyard in a sexual lusty enterprise. And then I painted this picture for my music video, which is a city growing organically from the ground up, except I filmed it upside down. And I designed this tattoo for Margaret, but then Christy had a Bulmers, and then the policeman ran after him in the Barbie car, armed to the teeth with stop motion wheels that skidded and skidded. And he had one thing on his mind, and that was making money bags. He had to make money bags, but his hat fell off and he didn't care anymore, so he decided to change his chisel and get back to work. And he chipped away at this wood all day long, and then he blew away the little pieces of wood. And then he chipped, and he was delighted with the result. So he made cut out some fabric and started painting some paint on there, which he was going to use to make a stencil. And then he made these money bags, and then he photographed them and put them inside a painting with Sally and Sally's daddy feature in. But then we built a window going through the kitchen because we didn't have time to get the ventilation needed to dry the money bags. But then I was in the public toilets creating these montages of weird and wonderful graffitis, and Tim has a very awkward face, but it's lovely anyway. We loved him. And then I made this giant piece of fabric that was going to go at Treehouse, but Buster was surfing so much that we had to run away and make some stop motion lights in the middle of the night on the beach. And we filmed all the stars, and we decided to do plant bulbs but backwards. And then a green screen man and millions of photos of this film that I worked on up the coast, where I was a production manager and I had to put lamps and things on the side, and that was very important. And then I made these cups that flew out with flying liquid, and there was kids with bubbles everywhere, and there was Sam acting like a little funny man, and then there was all sorts of interesting pictures from my sketchbooks which you could hardly see. But then I decided that it was enough and I had to film a doll's house, so I made this doll's house move very quickly, and then I decided the horse needed to go and travel to the doll's house. So he comes around and he goes, he gets in the car and drives off. But on the way, he needed a light refreshment, so he stops at his number 17 pub, and then whilst drinking it, he notices his nemesis, Dr. Mazzano, is driving off in the distance, so he chases him. Later that evening, I created a green screen man called Buster in a wheelchair, and then after he caught up with his nemesis, who was travelling via a fan-powered hillbilly wagon, he wanted a snack, so he ate some octopus and a couple of whale signs, and then he snacked away on a butterfly.